You're giving Isabella far too much credit.
Matthew can edit this out. We can just.
All right, welcome back to the Sci-Fi Podcast. I'm Matthew. I'm here with the boy Ethan. Ethan, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing good. Today we are talking a movie, a big, bold, beautiful journey movie. We got Margot Robbie, Colin Farrell. The director, I don't even know how to say his name. It's like Pagoda. I don't know.
Konganota? Yeah, I don't know.
Konganota. But movie, it's like a rom-com, but also kind of like a life movie. It's like hard to okay. So none of my friends or family have ever heard of this movie before. Hadn't seen anything, and so like when I went to watch the movie, my mom was like, "Oh, what movie did you watch?" And I was like, the first thing was like rom-com kind of, but like how would you explain this movie to like someone who asked?
It's a good question. It has romantic elements and it has comedic elements. Like, I definitely laughed at it. So you could classify it as a rom-com. It's more philosophical than like your average rom-com. Like, it's not just like cheesy and, they happily ever after and all that stuff. Like, there's definitely some deeper elements to it. So it's like a rom-com slash philosophy, like almost if like Wes Anderson made a rom-com is like how I would describe it.
Yeah, I think like, so after thinking about it for a few days, I watched it on Tuesday. We're recording right now. Today is Friday, so it's been a few days. Like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but like, it felt like something I would daydream about. I don't know. I've been using that to explain, like, of like, yeah, I don't know. It just like feels like two people who kind of like each other go on like a fever dream, daydream road trip. And that's kind of what I've been saying, which it is like an interesting concept kind of thing. Like, but yeah, I watched by myself. You watched with?
Yeah, I watched with my girlfriend Claire. And then we went to Cheesecake Factory after, made a little date out of it.
Wait, that's kind of hype. Wait, what'd you eat at Cheesecake Factory?
I got chicken Alfredo. I was honestly kind of disappointed because I feel like it's like $10 more expensive than Olive Garden, and Olive Garden's like way better. So I don't know. I was
also pro Olive Garden.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to shell out the money to go to Cheesecake Factory is fine. It's not terrible and like the atmosphere is nice, but I don't know if I want to shell out that much money to go there again. But
sure. I feel that. I feel like, okay, honestly, since on that one trip we went to where we went to Olive Garden for your birthday, like I like have had like a newfound appreciation for Olive Garden. Now when I'm in like in group settings or like I'm with my family, I'm like, oh, like what if we got Italian, or like, oh, like Olive Garden, and like no one ever's like, oh, Olive Garden. Everyone's like, I'm like, man, you guys are missing out.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
Once you know how to do Olive Garden, it's the best.
Dude. Yeah. So, wreck of the day, guys. Go to Olive Garden. But yeah, before we hop into the review, talking about this movie, on the Sci-Fi Podcast, we do something called the Letterboxd tagline game. And basically, Letterboxd, on every movie, right underneath the title, they have a little tagline. Sometimes it's from the actual movie posters and the movie marketing. Sometimes it's just like some random person that like makes up a tagline for the movie. So, Ethan and I are going to take our best guesses at what the tagline is. Whoever wins, or gets closest, I guess, will get to share their thoughts on the movie first. For some examples, La La Land, the tagline on Letterboxd is, "Here's to the fools who dream." And then for like another rom-com-ish movie, 10 Things I Hate About You, the tagline is, "How do I loathe thee? Let me count the ways." So that's kind of the two examples, the two things that we got to go off of. Ethan, do you want to go first with your Letterboxd tagline?
Sure. Oh boy. The only other time that I've done this, it was for How to Train Your Dragon, and I felt like decently confident, and then I was way off. So I don't really know how to attack this one. it's got to be something about the doors, right? Like it's got to be
Dude, that's what I was thinking too.
when not quite as cheesy as like when one door closes, another door opens, but like open the it's got to be like open the doors of your past to step foot into the future or something like that.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Dang. My first thought was like something like love is a closed door because all the doors are closed in the beginning. I don't know, something like stupid like that. I think there's also like you could just like make the guess of like, oh, sometimes you have to perform to find the truth or whatever, like that one quote in the movie. I'll go with that one since you took the door one first.
Okay.
All right, let me see. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, actually, no, wait. You were close.
Okay.
So the tagline is relive your past, change your future, which you kind of talked about, like, oh, like you gotta in the past to step into your future and through the door. So Ethan wins, I guess. I was not close at all with the performing and stuff. But all right, Ethan, A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. General thoughts on the movie.
Sure.
What do you think?
I enjoyed it. I think I'm very glad that I saw it. I'm very glad that it was made. I think that it's a really unique artistic vision from the director, and Hollywood creativity kind of comes at a premium in Hollywood these days, so I'm really kind of glad that he went for it and went for kind of a really big concept and tried to communicate some very deep thoughts, which some of them came across. I think it was a little messy. I think my main issues with it were how it started and how it ended and then what it left out.
Interesting.
I think the middle was great. Like the whole concept of them like revisiting their past, like every time they opened a new door, it was super riveting. I was super into it. I didn't really buy their first meeting, and I think with it, I don't think it was a huge deal. Like I think with a slight tweak, it would have been fine. And by the time the movie got going, I kind of forgot about it. But when they meet in the beginning at the wedding, I was just kind of like, and like they don't like their first run-in with each other is pretty awkward. They don't really hit it off, but then they have like a second run-in and they're like their chemistry is immediately 10 times better. And I just didn't buy it. And I know that it's like supposed to be kind of whimsical and stuff, but if you wanted to do like a love at first sight thing, you could have done a love at first sight thing. What I wish would have happened, this is how I'll save that for later because I'm sure we'll talk about it more. I'm just giving my general thoughts right now. But, and then the ending as well, I kind of was just like, again, with some slight tweaks, like I don't mind where the movie landed. I think it landed in a fine place. I just would have rather there been like a more seminal climactic moment that they experienced together, or even like if it was separate, like just some, I don't know, it just kind of felt like they didn't really go through any dramatic character change at the very end or like make any big dramatic realization that changed things for them. It was just kind of like they were emotionally affected by their experiences and so they decided to go in a new direction is kind of how I would describe it. So, and then there was just like a couple of, quite literally like a couple of doors that I could have imagined them going through in my head that I think would have been really interesting for the like furtherment of their character that didn't happen. So, and then also I just think that the concept of them being on the stage was interesting, but I almost would have just left it out entirely because I think the point that he was trying to make was interesting, but it almost felt like a point that could have been made without the stage stuff or should have been made in like a different movie. Like there was just like, and it was very vague and open-ended, and I get that was kind of the point. Like it was supposed to be like, make you think and be artistic, and I do appreciate that. The movie made me think a lot, but I just don't feel like that part of it was tied up in like a neat enough bow that I was like, oh, this element's inclusion in the movie makes a lot of sense. Like it felt more like I said, just a little messy. So those were like my main things that I liked, my main critiques. The acting was great. And I thought the characters were really interesting. One of my favorite parts of the movie is that neither of the characters thinks super highly of themselves. Like they're both kind of they're both pretty self-aware. I think Margot Robbie's character more than Colin Farrell's character, but like it gets to a point where like they're kind of like not, they're willing to admit out loud that they're not good people, which I think is like really mature and interesting and not something that you often see from characters on screen. So I like that. Yeah, that's kind of like my big main thoughts, but we can go in whatever direction you want out of that. But I'm curious to hear your main thoughts as well, obviously.
Yeah. So, okay, I think basically everything you said, I mostly agree with. As soon as I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, I think I'm going to like this movie. So like 5 years ago or whatever, when I applied to USC, I had applied as a screenwriting major. And one of the prompts for the application is to write an autobiographical character sketch, like write a scene that tells us about you. And the scene that I wrote was, I walk through a door, and the door, it's like actually kind of crazy how similar it is. Like the door leads to my room of who I was in 7th grade. The old house I lived in, and like the scene is just me and my 7th grade self talking to each other, and my 7th grade self asking about how things are going, him being surprised, hurt, frustrated, excited about different things, and me learning from my 7th grade self. And so like, I think that idea of like talking and going back to the past has always been really interesting to me. I think like nostalgia is like a huge thing that like nostalgia is good sometimes, but also sometimes it's bad. And like I have like a very interesting relationship with, I think, nostalgia. And a lot of times I think like I would either daydreaming in school or like at home at night, like what it would be like to go back to like moments that I wish I could change, or moments that were embarrassing, or just like relive an awesome moment. And also like relive them as like myself now and not as like the young person. So I don't know, like a lot of this movie, I was like, this is something that I would dig, and I would love to see this like realized on screen, or like have that experience myself. And so, I think like I could probably pick apart the movie or go further into like the analysis of like why maybe it doesn't work here or it doesn't work there. But like my first knee-jerk reaction, which Ethan knows me, I'm often like a Debbie Downer when it comes to movie. I like pick stuff apart all the time. But like after this movie, I was kind of like, I don't really want to pick it apart, because like I felt like this was a self-insert movie for me, of like, you can insert yourself into the movie, and like the movie sets up like a blank canvas, and like it fills in like maybe just enough where you can kind of fill in the rest yourself. And like I had a really fun time filling in the rest myself. And like I also came into this like a couple of weeks after a breakup, and so like it was like just a really interesting time to like watch this movie, think about this movie. And so I think depending on who you are and how you come into this movie, like it'll hit you in a bunch of different ways. And like another thing that I thought was really interesting was like, this is a pretty adult movie, not in like the, oh, it's like raunchy or like whatever, but like the subject matter is like, there's a couple of 40-year-olds who are like kind of searching for meaning, like past their prime, and like they're like, yeah, like a lot of the subject matter of what they're thinking about and the questions that they're asking and like the frustrations they have, like they're like not like kid, childhood, young person things, they're like adult things. And so I felt like there are some things that I could relate to, but also I was like, I feel like maybe in 15 years this will hit harder, and also like, oh, maybe I can like learn from this kind of aspect of the movie. So I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I just thought it was very engaging and emotional, and there were a couple times when I teared up, I'm not gonna lie. I think it'd be really interesting to watch this as a parent.
Oh, absolutely.
In the future, this like I think I would have a totally different watch of this movie as a parent. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought the actors, there's two main actors, it's Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie, and like they're good. I think I've seen more of Margot Robbie than I have Colin Farrell, so I was like more impressed by him, because I was like, oh, I just haven't seen you do this before. Like I've seen Margot Robbie cry and give good performances and smile and be like charming, but Colin Farrell, I was like, oh wow, and yeah, so I thought it was good. I think the pacing, like you said, was like a little messy. Like some doors are like quick, like 3-minute little thingies, and then like some doors are like, we're gonna stay here for the next 25 minutes, and I'm like, okay. And I agree with like the ending kind of thing. I think one of my biggest things is at the end, maybe it's like a spoiler, but who cares? Like when they go to their homes, when like the GPS takes them home or whatever, to their past homes, and it's intercut in between David going to like the night of his prom something or breakup, and then Sarah going home to see her dead mom who's still alive. It just didn't work for me, like, because it felt like Sarah's stuff was good, but also like, oh yeah, like sure, yeah, meet the dead mom, and then I don't know, David's stuff didn't like land as like a big oomph thing, and
Yeah.
to some extent, like I think the messiness is like kind of almost intentional, because like if you're just kind of looking back at all of your life and just like all the different things, and like I guess from their perspective they've just been hit by like one emotional sucker punch after the other, and just like a lot to take in, but I think I would have liked maybe like a better final like you know what I'm saying, but yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, pretty good. Where do you want to start in talking about this? What's the most kind of like, I want to talk about this.
So, I don't know, I have a couple ideas. I have like actually an idea of how I would have rather ended it, so we could talk about that, because you were just kind of, that was kind of what was running through my head because you were just talking about it. So we could start there. We could, you know, talk about the acting performances. We could talk about, just whatever. I'm down for whatever. We could talk.
All right, hit me with your pitch of how you would change the ending or write the ending.
Okay, so my biggest issue with the movie was there was so many compelling threads that both of them threw out there about their relationships with their parents. And, like, they focus, for whatever reason, on, like, Margot Robbie's character's relationship with her mom a lot, which that scene actually did really hit for me. Like, that was probably the most emotional scene in the movie, just because, like, her getting to kind of be 12 years old again and, like, be scared and be vulnerable and on like a level that she probably can't do with anyone in her adult life. Like, that was really cool. Like, I enjoyed that a lot. And also like her kind of realizing like, oh, I'm bad with men because my mom's bad with men. Like, this is, I can like stop the generational thing. Like, that was cool. Like, I'm cool with that being in there. I would have just put it a little bit earlier in the movie. And I just think that like we resolved the whole, you know, Colin Farrell's character having, you know, issues with the getting rejected in high school earlier in the movie when he went back and did the play. Like, I was like, I don't feel like we need to be in this part of the world again. Like, we were already here. So what I would have rather them have done is, like, the GPS takes them home and they arrive at the homes of their still living parents, like, in the real world. So, because Margot Robbie's character throws out several times, like, I hate my father. I wish he was dead. Like, all this stuff about how much she just dislikes him. And I think, like, seeing them have it out and come to some kind of understanding would have been really powerful. And then in the same sense, it's clear that, like, Colin Farrell's character doesn't really, like, has, like, a weird relationship with how his parents parented him. Like, they like, really babied him and, like, really loved him and told him he was special all the time. But he kind of blames them for why he's failed because he, like, also thought he was special, and then like when the world kind of told him he wasn't, he like didn't know what to do with that. So I would have loved to see also him talk to his parents and maybe kind of like let them in on that, but also kind of apologize, because it seemed like throughout the movie he was starting to like get a little bit guilty for all the times that he'd kind of run out on them, because, you know, it's kind of clear at the beginning of the movie that he's avoiding them and, you know, not really trying to have a relationship with them. So I don't know. I think that those were some of the most interesting lines. And, like, it would have fit the, like, take me home, and then, like, the home that they get taken to is, like, one of their former homes. I don't know. Like, it's their parents' home. Like, I don't know. Like I said, there's, like, this is explored a little bit. Like, you have Margot Robbie talking to her mom. You also have the scene where Colin Farrell's character talks to his dad right when he's born, and he kind of gets some insight into, like, oh, this is why, you know, I was told I was special my whole life. But I think it would have just been more impactful for him to, like, actually talk to his father and his mother in real life, like in a way that it, like, actually affects them, you know, and, like, affects the movie moving forward. And then similarly with Margot Robbie's character, I don't know, I think that would have been a more emotionally impactful and, like, kind of like a step above all, because, like, all the other Walking Through the Doors, it doesn't really have stakes because these are not, like, it's not, like, real, like, it's just, like, them reliving things, and like especially with the stage imagery, it's kind of like implied that they're like just acting it out, like they're not really
Yeah.
they're not it's not like they're not really time traveling and like going back to the past and like changing the past. They're just like processing their trauma basically. So instead of like that where it's like they learn but there's no consequences for anything else, it's like, okay, now here's like a scene with like a lot of real stakes that could like affect the world moving forward. I don't know, that's kind of what I would have liked to see.
Ooh, I like that a lot. I think like something that I think almost broke the immersion for me on that last one, because like they do like this whole setup of like, oh, I'm going home, and they do the intercut of like, oh, like they drive up to that same like little small door thing, and like, oh, they're not actually home, like, ah, shoot, but like this entire time we're set up with the thing of like you walk through a door and then you are going to go to some point in your past. You are you in the past and you're experiencing that same thing, and then Colin Farrell's character goes through this door and suddenly he's his dad.
Yeah.
And so I was like confused. I was like,
the director, sorry, just to intercut real quick, I won't like take too much of your time, but the director, for some reason, especially with Colin Farrell's character, like broke the rules a few times. Like, because in the scene where he's talking to his father, he's just some random guy to his father. After they've kind of established like you go back and you're like who you were in that time period.
Yeah.
He's like, it's like a parallel scene to like Tony Stark talking to his own dad in Avengers Endgame. Like he's basically just nobody. It's kind of weird. I think that was, I think he knew what he was doing. Like I don't think that was a, like, oops, I accidentally broke the rules. Like I think he did it on purpose. But it is like a weird. I kind of would have rather him follow the rules, but it's his movie, so whatever. But anyways, continue.
Sure. Yeah. And so yeah, I thought that was just weird. I was like, okay, then now like my mind is shifting of like, oh, we're gonna have like, if you're talking to your younger self, then we're going to show the growth that you have had, right? But then, like, I don't know, like, the structure of the scene of, like, oh, you have to pretend to be your dad, it's just, like, weird because you can't, like, address your younger self as the older self, and then, like, he ends up saying the same thing, like, oh, you're special, which, like, I probably could think about that more and find the meaning in it. But, like you said, I feel like the very first scene is this phone call of him talking to his parents, and his parents are like, come home, visit more often, be open, this kind of stuff. And it feels like with that opening scene, closing scene type thing of like bringing it back together, like maybe talk to your, yeah. So I that also confused me. I was like, why is he not little kid who's sad talking to his dad, comforting him? But I think generally I forgive the movie a lot for all of these like random different things because of the small little moments inside of those things that made me feel stuff. Like when young David in that flashback is talking to current David and he says like, oh, Dad, I saw you crying and I wanted to comfort you, but I didn't know how. I was like, yo, that was one of the times I teared up. Because me personally, I've never seen my dad cry, but if I saw my dad cry, I like don't know what I would do. And I was like, that, I don't know, that like just the way that he said it and like the way that the kid actor like emoted that, I was like, that put me in a specific like frame of mind that I don't think I've ever like thought about or experienced before. But like now I'm thinking about it and like, yeah, like stuff that's inside me that I would feel and like react, like it brought it out of me that I would never have otherwise had, I think, which like, that stuff was cool, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly. That I had almost the exact same reaction. I was like, oh shoot, like I was trying to recall a time that I've seen my own dad cry, and I'm not 100% sure. I feel like it has happened before. It's happened like 2 or 3 times actually. The memories just came flooding back for some reason. But it's also very rare. So like him being like, and when it happens like to either of my parents, because neither of my parents cry very much, it's just like, oh, like what? Like it's a very like kind of hopeless, but also kind of like cool feeling at the same time, because it's like, oh, my parents are human, but at the same time it's like, oh, my parents are human, like they need help. Yeah. and I'm like just a kid, like I don't know how to help them, like, it's like if they need help, then like what does that say about me when I get to that age? Like I'm still gonna need a lot of help. I don't know, it's like there's like a lot of different emotions associated with that. So yeah, I had a similar experience in that scene for sure.
Yeah, I think the other moment that I teared up was also kind of in that time when I think a lot of the Sarah seeing her dead mom, like I was like, oh, like I know this is sad, but I don't know what it was. But when the mom tucked her in, I was like, oh no. I started tuning them. That hit me too. But yeah.
No, yeah, that for sure.
Yeah. But talking about our two characters, which character, David or Sarah, intrigued you the most, and which one did you like relate to more, or are they the same?
I think I was intrigued more by Sarah only because I think again it was partially like some of the scenes that we didn't see. Like I was kind of waiting for her to have to face her father in some way, even if it was just in the past. Like the continued like I hate, like when she said like I wish my dad was dead. Like I think the thing, and this goes back to the thing that I think is just the most intriguing about Sarah in general, is that like she is very aware and unapologetic of like herself being a bad person. Like she says so many times throughout the movie, like, you don't want to date me, I'm a bad person. I'm a monster. Yeah, I'm a monster. I'm a bad person. I'm a monster. Like, I ruin men's lives. Like, I will ruin you. Like, you know, she's not shy about it. And she, you know, like, if she could choose to change it, I'm sure she would. But she's also just kind of, like, in this state of, like, depressed acceptance because she's like, this is just kind of how I am, and I don't really know what to do about it. And it's just kind of the only thing that I know, so I'm just going to kind of keep moving forward with it. I think you also, it's interesting how, like, you hear that from her, but the movie also shows it, like, and it also just, like, slaps her in the face with it a lot, because in the beginning of the movie, like, it starts out and right away, she, in the first conversation, very, like, abruptly and, like, oddly, and you feel the oddness, and you know that David feels the oddness too. She's like, you want to get married? And he's like, you don't mean that. And she's like, I guess you won't find out. And then she ends up sleeping with another guy that she was dancing with at the wedding, and like, it's that cool parallel shot of, like, him by himself and her, like, about to sleep with this guy. And it's just like, so right away you're shown it. And then also the scene where they have to, like, talk to their past partners, and she has to, like, admit out loud, she's like, I leave you tonight, like, you know, just, like, without any warning, like, I get up in the middle of the night and I leave you by yourself, and you panic, and you think that I'm, like, hurt, and you call and you text and all this stuff, and I block your number. Like, I was just like, oh, because I don't know, it wasn't even putting myself in her shoes in that moment that was interesting. It was putting myself in his shoes, because I was just like, if that ever happened to me, like, to, like, a partner of mine disappeared and I was genuinely worried, not like for their safety, like, it wasn't even like if you're gonna break up with me, like, at that point, but I'm just, like, worried that you're, like, in a ditch somewhere and, like, someone kidnapped you in the middle of the night or something, like, that would be terrible. Like, and so it wasn't, that was like a fear and an anxiety that was, like, beyond just, oh, you know, I feel bad for this guy because he got broken up with. It was like, I feel bad for this guy because he was probably worried for her physical well-being. Like, that's terrible. And she had to admit that, like, out loud too. She was like, and she admitted that she was aware of it too. Like, it wasn't just like it wasn't like he told her and she was like, oh, that happened. Like, I didn't know. Like, she was like, yeah, like, I did this thing fully aware of how it would affect you, and I did it anyway. And so that, I don't know, really, really interesting. I think there were definitely moments, though, like, both of the characters are super intriguing. There were definitely moments where David was pulling me in a lot too, like, just the very first door is so, like, interesting because it's not really seemingly a big moment in his life. He's just like, yeah, I was at this lighthouse and, like, it didn't really hit like I hoped it would. And, you know, it's not, they don't have to talk to anyone. They just kind of, like, look over the sunset and then it's over. And, like, just kind of, like, the continued, the scene also where he has to talk to the woman he was engaged to and was just, and, like, admit to himself why he, like, ended that is also just, like, super interesting. Like, the whole, like, he's striving and then once he achieves it, he, like, loses, like, it just stops mattering to him anymore. Super interesting. But yeah, probably relate to him more. Even though Sarah was more intriguing, just because I think there were, I think, like, I just can't really, for the same reasons that I found Sarah intriguing were the reasons I couldn't relate to her. Like, I can't really relate to the, like, all of the cheating and all of that stuff. Like, I could never get myself to do that, but that was part of why I was just like, man, like, this character is so interesting, like, so self-aware and yet so horrible. Like, it's just such an interesting dynamic. But, like, with David, like, I think some of the striving that he was exemplifying, I was just like, oh yeah, like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I can understand. Sometimes I think when things are going easy, I have this natural, like, suspicion about it. Like, if I don't have to, like, work really hard for it and strive for it, then it's just like, I don't know, it's like off-putting a little bit. And so I think that it was interesting to see that portrayed on screen, because I was just like, yeah, I can kind of, I don't know if, like, fully relate, because, but even like, sometimes in relationships that I've been in, especially the current one that I'm in, because Claire's great. Like, sometimes, like, she's just being her great self, and then I'm just like, it's, like, hard for me to accept. Like, it's like, no, like, I don't deserve to be loved in this instance. Like, it needs to be more difficult. Like, when I fail, I need to be, like, reprimanded for it more, and when I succeed, it needs to be, like, this big accomplishment. Like, it being unchanging is, like, a new experience, and so that can be hard to accept. So that was, like, I don't think that in the same, like, I don't think I feel it as extremely as David did, to the sense where it's, like, you know, kind of like, turning him off completely. But I do understand the, like, the whole psyche of, like, oh, someone, like, loves me for who I am. That, like, actually is harder to accept than, like, having to earn it. I can kind of relate to that a little bit.
Interesting. I think I also related to David more because maybe I haven't cheated before. But I thought the ending where he goes back to the car rental place and then he's talking to Phoebe Waller-Bridge and the old dude. And he's like, oh, is, like, Sarah back? And then he looks at the headshot that's on the table and he, like, moves it, and then he realizes, who the frick is this? And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is like, oh yeah, like, Sheila, she couldn't come in, but, like, Sarah was a great understudy. And, like, that I think was a super, like that hit me hard, of, like, I think in the way that David maybe is, like, wondering, like, oh, like, who is good enough to pursue, like, who can be good enough for, like, worthy enough for the chase or whatever. And, like, he was, I think in my mind, like, he was looking for the one, right? And, like, I guess this entire time he thought, like, oh, because, like, I went on this mystical, beautiful journey, Sarah must have been the one. And then he realized, like, Sarah's the understudy. And, like, maybe, like, there isn't the one, but, like, I thought she was, you know, like, the perception versus the reality of, like, who the one is, and maybe there isn't one. And, like, him being like, yo, like, I love her so much, and according to this, like, mystical company, she wasn't the one, she was just, like, the backup or whatever. And I find that really interesting, because I think a lot of times, like, I am prone to, like, grass is greener, the grass is greener, and, like, there's got to be one who's perfect and better and, like, checks all the boxes and aligns perfectly or whatever. And, like, that was, like, I think almost a good thing to hear, of, like, yo, maybe, like, there isn't one. And, like, yeah, I also think that, like, going to the very beginning, the first door that they go into, like, David starts going into, like, oh, like, you know, maybe the most beautiful places make you feel the most alone or whatever. And he's like, all, like, being, like, sad boy hours on the sunset, like, okay, bro. And then later in the car, like, Margot Robbie's like, I'm a cheater, I hurt people, I'm just gonna hurt you. And I think it was really cool that they both called out each other on, like, yo, that was rehearsed. That was a BS, bro. You said that a million times before. Like, I started trying to, like, make this, like, a moment. And I don't know, I felt like that was a personal attack in some ways, because, like, I can get into my little, like, melodramatic self and be like, oh, like, is it, but then, like, yeah, like, shut up. And so, like, I appreciated, like, the realness of that almost, but also like I thought it was cool that they could see that in each other. And like, of course, this was from like a car company that like knew like, all right, these two people can kind of like itch each other's brains or like, you know, hit at different like specific points. And like, I think that's part of what the allure was for me of this movie. Also partially because I just got broken up with and like now I'm single, but it's like, oh, like who's that person that like I could have those like deep personal like conversations that would like move my like personal self without like knowing them very well, but like in learning about them they could like hit the buttons that like would kind of like almost like unlock things in me that I like wouldn't know before. I thought that was really cool. I thought that like going back to what you said like 20 minutes ago about how their first interaction was really like weird, and then like their second interaction was like, oh my gosh, like chemistry through the roof. However they did like those first interactions, I was like, I think they had meant for it to be like, oh, like one look at this person and like, you know that you would like risk anything for them or like kind of like go in fully, but then it's like, oh, like I can't, right? And like I think in the text of the script and what they were saying, like yeah, that makes sense, but like something about it, I was just like these people should like be each other's like death, poison, whatever. And that wasn't like exactly shown on screen, I guess. I'm kind of rambling, but another part that I think I really like almost related to or found really interesting about David was like he like realizes that he's kind of like a pathetic, privileged, prideful kid. And like in I guess like life affirming movies like this, like I feel like that's not like a take that would usually be made. You know, it's like you're not gonna like go on this huge like retrospective nostalgic journey and realize, shoot, I was just like a dumb little poop the entire time, you know? And I thought that was like super sobering, especially because like I guess us in our like young 20s and like this is the time of like our primes, right, where we're like young and physically able and like doing whatever, and like we're dudes, so like we think we're all that, you know? And that's one of the things that I thought like, oh, when I'm 40 and like I hear this and watch this, or maybe like how would I kind of approach that like realization that I'm like not special, I'm not invincible, I'm not like that guy. And I think like already like there's ways that I know that, but also like I think just like in my personal like walk with God, learning how to be more humble and learning how prideful I am, I was like, shoot, dude, like there's even I think before like he realized he was like privileged, prideful, I like something I was like this guy's kind of pathetic, kind of like lame, and then like they said it about him and then he realized it and I was like, oh shoot, ooh yeah, like yo, and so I found that really interesting, and like I think Colin Farrell like played that with a real like vulnerability that like felt like genuine, and so that made me think a lot too. So yeah, I don't know.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I thought about that a lot, and just both of them admitting that they're bad people and then also kind of agreeing to love each other through it felt very Christianity based, like a very Christianity based idea, you know, and very similar to a lot of the things that I experience in my own personal walk with God as well. It's just like you see a lot of times like, oh, it's actually kind of better if I think less of myself. It's something that that our good friend Jacob likes to talk about. Like I had a conversation with Jacob not that long ago. Well, it was probably like a year and a half ago or something, maybe 2 years ago. And he said something along the lines of like, well, yeah, I don't really, I like think I'm terrible, but like, and I'm pretty happy. Like, I think that that's like a kind of a good setup. And I was just like, huh, like it really is true that like, actually it's not, cause you know, and especially in the world that we live in, there's so much like love yourself, love your, you know, love who you are, like all this stuff. And like, actually it can be beneficial to, you know, not think that much of yourself. And that's actually how you find the most happiness. I don't know. So seeing that kind of explored was interesting. Like what they really needed was not to, which is one thing that I liked about the ending. Like it wasn't like especially with Margot Robbie's character, like she doesn't get to the end and she's like, you know what, like I've figured out the secret to becoming a better person, and so I'm never gonna cheat again, and I'm worthy of this relationship. Like when they get together, she actually goes to him and she's like, I still like at the beginning of the movie, I didn't think that I could do it, and I still don't really think that I could do it. I'm just now more willing to take the risk and kind of be loved for who I am than I was before. And two, when he like admits that he loves her, he's like, I love you for who you are, including all of these bad things, and he like lists them out and, you know, isn't shy about them. So that was really cool, and I liked that a lot. Like I said, there was still like a little missing from the end that I would have liked to have seen, but I did think that part of it was good. Like them, it wasn't like, oh, you know, because a lot of the movies where the characters start out as bad people and then have a happy ending, it's like, oh, they become good people. And I think that, you know, kind of an alternate idea, them exploring that and it being like, well, what if they're just as bad, but they're like willing to let other people in, and so that's the thing that changes. I don't know, that was cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like on those lines, like the idea of like being like not just like knowing that you're bad or a bad person, but like also like being willing to like trust someone with like them knowing that you're bad. Because I think that's like one of the scary things for me. It's like, oh, like I know I'm bad, but like, you know, sure as hell I'm gonna suppress that. And like, bro, like in freshman year, I created an alternate persona to pretend that I was someone that I wasn't. I did that whole thing. You know, like I'm like, if I can convince other people that I'm good and whatever. And maybe Margot Robbie's character from the beginning, she's kind of already like, I'm probably gonna hurt you, like. And maybe Colin Farrell's more of like the hiding, like, oh, like
he doesn't like to talk about himself in the beginning of the movie.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like that, like, and okay, I don't know if have you watched K-pop Demon Hunters?
Not yet. It's on my list, but
okay,
not yet.
never mind. But anyways, I thought that was really real. Like the idea of like, I just don't want people to know. But like, it's one of the scariest things I think to do. But like to like vulnerably give yourself up to be known, and trust, like the ability to trust someone, to like hold that like the uglies of you, but like still love you and care about you. And I think that's like we see that in reflection in our relationship with God and like with other Christians too. Like that's like a super cool thing that we get to like experience. And so I was like thinking about the like who I am willing to be vulnerable with and like who I trust or mistrust in that, and like, oh, like what like that vulnerability and openness could lead to. Because I think a lot of times like we're scared of saying something about ourselves, but like oftentimes like people go through those same experiences, and like someone just needs to say it to be like, oh, like, and then like, oh, I feel that too, I feel that, or whatever. And there's like more common ground and like love to like give there. So I don't know, I thought that was interesting. I like that.
No, yeah, I actually didn't think about that until you brought it up now, but that's really a great point. Like because the parts of the movie where Margot Robbie's character was really going through it was not like doing the cheating, because she even admitted like, part of me likes doing this because it gives me the sense of power and freedom that I don't have in a relationship, and I like feel trapped in whatever. It was like the most miserable I think that she was in the whole movie was like I said, having to face the guy and like admit like I did all this, and like fully well knowing that you were going to have like a horrible panic attack about it. And so like she repeatedly kind of starts this like, I'm horrible, because she would almost rather like be dismissed than like, I think probably then like have that happen and then not want to leave. Like what I think like her nightmare scenario is probably she like cheats on David and then regrets it and then tries to apologize and make up for it, and he like just uses it against her and like uses it to like, you know, like, and she has real consequences for it, basically, instead of just being able to run away. Like, he, shuts her out, or their relationship is never the same again, or he, like, yells at her, or they get into a big fight, or whatever. Like, her having to face real consequences is definitely not, that's kind of what she was avoiding. So, and then similarly, almost with David, like, he's running from his parents the whole movie, and it's not even because, and it feels like it's probably because he needs to admit to them that he's a failure, and not necessarily in a way that, or that he feels like he's a failure, not in a way that, like, he, like, needs to, like, yell at them, even though I think it would be interesting if there's a scene of him being like, you parented me wrong and it screwed me up and blah blah blah, but he almost just needs to, like, be vulnerable and be like, hey guys, I know that you think I'm special, but, like, all of these things, there's, like, all these things that I do that I'm not proud of. Because it's very clear, like, one of the most BS lines in the whole movie is when he's like, I love traveling alone. I'm like, no, you don't. You didn't even, I don't even believe you. I've known your character for 2 minutes, and I'm already calling BS. Like, it's very obvious that that's not true. You don't love like, first of all, it's very difficult for anyone to love traveling alone. But second of all, like, just the way that you played it, like, I don't believe you. So he, and it's probably partially because I actually don't know which the reason why. I think it could be because his parents are such a source of, like, you're special, and, like, and he doesn't want to, like, break the illusion. Like, he, if he ever needs that pick me up, he, like, kind of wants that to be preserved. But I think it also could just be because he knows that that's what's going to happen, and he needs them to actually, like, kind of take, instead of, like, being, just calling him special, like, really see what he's struggling with, and, like, see those issues, and, like, relate on a deeper level, and be like, hey, yeah, you are struggling, and, like, you have made some mistakes, and, like, a lot of the things that you did suck, and, like, we're not dodging that. Like, we're still trying our best to comfort you and help you, but not in a way that's, like, ignoring all of that. I don't know. So just kind of, like, that duality, like, both of them, it's they both refuse to, it's not that they don't know that they're a bad person, because they both admit it, but they are still avoiding, like, the consequences of, like, really letting someone love them through it in a way that's, like, true and honest. Like, with David, it's like he needs more tough love, and then with her, she needs more gentle love. Like, she needs someone like David who's going to be like, I actually, none of your past matters to me, like, and I'll love you through it anyway. And so, like, they need slightly different things, but they both need, like, different than what they're getting. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what I enjoyed about the generational aspect of the relationship between both the main characters and their parents, of, like, the generational and parenting impact that had on them, but also, like, still David and Sarah chose to make poor decisions. Like, Sarah's mom was bad with men, and you'd only assume that, like, that's where Sarah's pictures of relationships and love and whatever it looks like. And yeah, it's, like, tough when you are growing up around that, but also, like, Sarah still chooses specifically, like, oh, I'm gonna hurt other people before they can hurt myself, right? She makes that choice every time. And then David, like, yeah, you can blame things on, maybe the parents shouldn't have just been like, oh, you're the best, you're special, or whatever. But also, like, he's chosen to, like, lean into that, like, not lie, but, like, that kind of idea. And like, when he's realizes he sucks, he's just like, I'm just gonna be sad about it, I'm gonna be alone. And so I found that, like, refreshing almost, because, like, something that I had a nitpick about Turning Red, this is a completely different movie, but you've watched it, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
And, like, something that I don't always love about these generational trauma movies is, like, the parent is always wrong, and the parent needs to, like, oh, like, you need to love me better and see me for who I am, and that kind of thing. And I think maybe when I was a younger kid, I was like, yeah, or whatever. But I think like the more that I've gotten to know my parents now as an adult, like they're still my parents, but also like get to like know them as people more and like just have more adult conversations with them and like seeing where they come from. And then also because like both of my parents are immigrants from Taiwan and like just like the Eastern versus Western kind of ideal split. Like I think I've realized that like, it's like a lot of both, of like, we're right sometimes and in to some capacity, but also like they got a lot of good reason for why they do the things that they do. Right. And like, that's why, and this isn't like the, like both sides have good things. It's like both sides have bad things of why they are struggling through this kind of cycle of stupidity or whatever. And I enjoyed how they like portrayed that. And it felt like very almost fair of like, like broken people on both sides are going to do stupid things that end up in this, So I like that a lot, I think. But yeah. What did you think? Okay. Did you watch Materialists?
I did.
Did you like this better than Materialists or worse?
That's a good question. Materialist is also a very unique movie that I really appreciate. I think it's kind of interesting that they both got mixed reviews. I can see why. I don't know. I think I'd really have to think about it to decide. I think that like in my head they're similar. I think that there's Materialist is I don't know. I think that they're very similar. I really can't make it. I really can't choose. I think both of them are just such unique artistic visions. Like that's really kind of the strength of the rom-com genre in Hollywood right now, and I think why it's actually doing pretty well theatrically is because it's where a lot of the creativity is. Like both of those movies, I was just like, wow, like I don't like there are elements in these movies obviously that I've seen before, but these are two movies that like I really don't think that I've like seen this artistic vision before. Like it feels so new and fresh. And a lot of it also wasn't afraid of like real adult issues. Like you said, I think that was very similar in Materialists is like a lot of, it's just like, wow, like we're exploring some real interesting themes here that I don't know if I've ever seen touched in a movie before. And also like similar in the sense that like a lot of the main characters know that they suck and like are kind of willing to admit it and also get confronted throughout the movie with the consequences of their poor decisions and like have to kind of reconcile that and also like not learn how to move on in a way too. It's especially in Materialists, like I don't want to spoil it because it's kind of like a really insane plot twist that I didn't see coming, but there's like one movie for, one moment for Dakota Johnson's character in particular that just came way out of left field. And I was just like, oh crap. Like, first of all, what a terrible thing to have to be responsible for. And second of all, like, how do you like move on with your life? And so it like showing her kind of being able to forgive herself and like at first not be forgiven and learn how to live with that, but then like kind of reconcile and, learn how to be loved through it. Again, kind of similar aspects to this movie. So I don't know. I could probably decide if I really thought about it, but right now I'd say I hold them at similar weight.
Yeah, I think they end in almost a very similar way to me of like the girl experiences this is like sounds dumb because like this is gonna sound like every movie like a girl experiences change but like the main character girl experiences change and the ending of the movie is her like committing to working through something, but we don't get to see them work through it, but we just know that like she has changed to the point where like she is ready to take that next step, which sometimes I guess in movies like I'd like to see a movie where it's like like working through those like difficulties of like, oh yeah, like at this point, like I could say like I want to do this, but like, hey yo, tomorrow it's a lot harder, and like it's an everyday, you know, choice thing. But both of those aren't those kind of movies, and I'm like, I'm cool with that. I think that on the surface level, it is a lot easier for me to relate to A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, even though like I never go through no fantasy door thing. But yeah, I don't have any like, same as you, like it's hard to think about. But yeah,
I have like I think Chris Evans's character, who's again names I've conveniently forgot. For some reason I'm bad with character names, but he was pretty relatable for me actually. I related to him a good bit. So that movie did have the relatability. I think though, like Dakota Johnson's character was very hard to relate with. And I think out of all the main characters in the two movies, she was probably the least likable, even though she's not the worst. Like Margot Robbie's character is definitely worse, but I think that like, and it's definitely, and I think what's interesting, like just kind of reflecting on that, like there's no like real reason for that to be true other than like just a vibe. Like I think, you know, it's just kind of like how we try to work through this. Obviously we don't want this to always be the case, but there's just some people that you like meet and you're like, yeah, like I kind of really want to be friends with this person because their vibe is great. And then there's like other people that you meet and you're just kind of like, it's hard to get along with you. And like there's no real definite reason why. I think that that's kind of like, if Dakota Johnson's character and I interacted in real life, I don't know if we would get along very naturally. And I think that if we ever had any kind of friendship, it would be through very deliberate effort. So I think that that's kind of why there. But yeah, super, again, just across the board, very compelling, interesting stories. Could do a whole nother podcast about Materialists, because there was a lot of stuff in there too, dude.
Real, yeah. I think like you saying that like made me realize, I think for most of both movies, Dakota Johnson's character and then also Sarah and David are people that are unwilling to try. Or maybe not unwilling to try, but kind of unwilling to try in some aspects.
Yeah.
Like more so Sarah and David, because Sarah is like, she will kind of, what's the word? Withdraw, and then David's out here like, I'm just lonely and sad. And I think
David's just kind of there.
Some aspects. Yeah. Like you know, after the deer crashes the car. Okay, wait. Aside, when it said deer in the or whatever, and then they immediately
incoming
crash,
deer?
and then
yeah,
incoming deer, and then it's like 20 seconds of them like slow motion. Like I thought that was the funniest thing. Okay, so like in this theater, I think it's all couples, and I'm like the only single guy there, and I just laughed so hard. I thought that was so funny. Incoming deer, and then just immediately smashed. That was awesome. But afterwards, when he's like, when they're like arguing, he's like, I kind of like you or whatever, and he's like, oh, like I don't know, maybe like I'm open and like I want to try or whatever. And I think we've talked about this before, but like I think we're both kind of hopeless romantics, and like we like are like, all right, let's like freaking, you know, like in my mind I'm like, all right, like I'll let myself get hurt again. Who cares, you know? And so part of me in this movie, A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, I was like, guys, come on, just do it, please, you know. But yeah, that's just, I guess, kind of how I came in, and so like in Materialists, like Chris Evans, he's like just like, hey yo, you call anywhere, I'm running over, I'm sprinting. Like she will call him like crying with cigarettes on like the floor or something. And he's like, I'm right there, please, let me help you, you know. And maybe I'm probably more of a Chris Evans than a Colin Farrell in the movie. I guess in the movies, but yeah.
No, yeah, Chris Evans' character was great. I liked him a lot, but also Pedro Pascal's character, like especially kind of how his whole arc ends, wonderful. Loved it. I like again, don't want to spoil it because I think it's pretty shocking and interesting, but his twist is great. Like, and their kind of like reconciling of it is also great. Super, super interesting. And it led to a really great conversation with my girlfriend, actually, because we also saw that movie together. And it really illustrated a point that really frustrates me, which actually I am gonna go into the spoiler because, you know, if you're this, if you're actually listening to us this far into the podcast and you haven't seen Materialists, like go
Yeah,
pause
what are
it
you
now
doing?
and go watch it. But anyway, skip a couple minutes ahead or whatever. But spoiler alert, when like it's revealed that he had the surgery to get taller, and then like they go through that, and he was just like, would you have gone out with me if I was as short as I was? And she was like, no, actually, you're right. And then so I had, and it's a really silly opinion for me to have as like a 6'4" person, but I've like made it my crusade in life to like tell every woman that I care about, whether it's like someone I'm in a relationship with or like my siblings or, my parents or my aunts or whatever, like that they're like, kind of romantic preference that the man is taller than them is like wrong, or not wrong, just like I like to challenge them on it just because I don't know, I just like, again, it's a silly thing for me as a tall person, but I always feel bad that like maybe it's like survivor's guilt or like, like privilege, like guilty privilege or something like that. Like I don't like, I think maybe part of me doesn't want my height to be such like a redeeming quality that people like look past other stuff. Like I don't want to like automatically become 10 times more attractive just because I'm tall. Like I want to be attractive for things apart from that. But then also at the same time, like I don't know. I just like, I think about like an alternate world when I am shorter and like I just get overlooked, like putting myself in people's shoes. And I don't know. So I like love this conversation of like really challenging, like, even my own girlfriend who, I hope she never dates anyone else. Like on this, like, would you date someone who was 2 inches shorter than you? And then it's always like, no. And I'm just like, why? Like, and then I like, like, I'm just like, and I like throw all these hypothetical scenarios and I'm like, they're, the best person ever in XYZ in this way, but they're just 2 inches shorter than you. And like, whenever the answer comes up no, I just like will like really kind of fight them on it. So that was like a super discussion inspiring scene because, and I thought it was super unique. I was just like, man, like, and for it to just be kind of so real too, like her be like, yeah, you're right. Like another kind of admission, like I'm a terrible person and you're right. Like you kind of got me on this one. Like full disclosure, would not have looked your way twice if you were as short as you used to be. Just super interesting. I don't know. Like, and then because the thing too that I get a lot from people that I like push back on this, push the issue with, whether it's, my girlfriend, it's just some other random, any other women that I'm talking to, like it always gets to a point where like, oh, but for the shorter guys, there are like shorter girls. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, but the issue is whether the girl is 5'6" or 4'11", she still wants the 6'5" guy. Like, like, yeah. It's not there. The girls, like telling the girls who are 4'11" to like settle for the 5'2" guys so that everyone else can, so the girls who are 5'6", like people don't agree to that. Like there's not like a girl code that's like, okay, the maximum height of a guy you can have is this tall so that like the taller girls can have the guys who are this tall. Like that's just not how it works, so I always like, I don't know, it's an interesting conversation to have because I never really like change anybody's mind or like resolve anything, but I like to like pick at people in that way. I don't know, because like I think men are often like challenged on objectifying women, but women are not always challenged on objectifying men. So I like to like kind of turn the roles a little bit in that way because it's like the most common way that it happens, I think.
Yeah, and I like, this is me saying that this is a person who is 8 inches shorter than Ethan. But like I think that like in the past, like, or I've probably seen this somewhere. Yeah, like, but usually in a movie when you're gonna make a point about a short guy, it's like a bit, it's like a joke thing. And I think it was very cool how like Materialists handled it. Like, yeah, they handled it as a joke, but like in a very like
dignified,
dramatic and real way, yeah. And like dignified way, and like of like, this is a real thing that like goes into people's minds rather than just like, oh, haha, short, like you're not gonna get a girl. And so like I think like you said, handling it with like a level of dignity is cool, and like that also made me think of like how they handled cheating for Sarah. Like, I don't know, like an alternate world, an alternate movie. Maybe this is a lot more of a raunchy movie where it's like shown, but like she's never shown to like cheat on someone. She's like when she, yeah, it's and when it's implied she's also like not dating anyone either. So she's just hooking up, right? And so like, I think it was cool how they focused on the ramifications of cheating, because I think a lot of times it's like, oh, like over sensualizing like the actual cheating and the like, oh, like feeling bad in the moment or like feeling good in the moment, you know, but like really going through like the implications and consequences of what cheating does on the person who cheats and also the person that you cheat with and the person you cheat on with or you're cheating on. And like I found that to be very interesting because that's like a more, I think, like nuanced take on cheating, I guess. I don't know. I also I don't consume a lot of takes on cheating, so what do I know? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts? I have like a final kind of question, but do you have any other things that you want to talk about? I thought the color was really cool.
Yeah, cinematography in this movie is great overall. I feel like maybe we could talk a little bit more about the whole stage thing because I think that, I have some thoughts there.
Oh, yes.
And then just like a brief note, it's totally unrelated and not a deep thought at all, but I like just kind of further shouting out Colin Farrell because at one point because he plays the Penguin in the Batman universe, right? Like in the show The Penguin, which I've seen the entirety of. Have you seen The Penguin?
I've not.
Okay. So I've spent a lot of time with Colin Farrell as the Penguin, and like one of the most incredible things about that show, apart from the storytelling and that, one of the most simple, incredible things about that show is like how you just over and over, like maybe like once an episode, have the realization like that's Colin Farrell. Like, you haven't thought about it for the other 45 minutes of the episode, but you're like, wow, like, Colin Farrell is doing a really freaking incredible... First of all, the makeup team, making him look like Oz. But second of all, like, him kind of growing into his costume and also, doing the accent and the emotions and stuff. Like, you just forget, like, he is Oswald Cobb. Like, he's not Colin Farrell. And, like, because, you see Colin Farrell in anything else, and he's like this... in this movie, like kind of nervous, soft-spoken Irish guy. And then, in The Penguin, he's like a New York, like crime boss, who's like overweight and has a limp and, all just like nothing. He couldn't be farther from the person Colin Farrell really is in real life. And so, I don't know, there was just a couple of moments in this movie where Colin Farrell would like do look at Sarah in a similar way to how Oz looked at people like you could see the similarities in his eyes. And I was just like, oh, like this really is the Penguin guy. Like, oh, in the same way that I watch the Penguin and I'm just like, this is, this is Colin Farrell. That's crazy. I was like watching this and I was like, this is the guy who's in the Penguin. And like, he's just a completely different, like, I don't know. It made me appreciate Colin Farrell's acting abilities even more because like I said, like the guy David and Oz could not be, completely different people, not only like in personality, but like physically and like in their mannerisms and like all this stuff. Like, I don't know. So he's really, really an incredible actor, and like shout out to him for that. 'Cause it's like there are a few, like there are actors where you're like, wow, like they portray a different emotion, but like, you still can't get past like, it's like this is still, Tom Holland, or this is still, like, Florence Pugh or whatever. But like to really be so immersed in the character to the point that you forget that the famous actor is even who's playing them, and then you like remember later in the movie, like that takes real talent. I've had that experience with Leo DiCaprio a few times, but like it's pretty rare otherwise. Yeah. So Colin Farrell being able to achieve that is pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think this is maybe my I don't know, maybe looking at his like filmography, I don't think I've watched many other Well, I've watched the Batman, but like he wasn't super big in that. Let me see. Have I seen any other movies of his? Or like him where he's like prominent. I don't think I have, and so like, I was like, this guy's good. This guy's good. And so yeah, like I don't think I've watched really any of his movies. I think Margot Robbie was also very good, but just because like I've watched so many of her movies before, and it's like, oh, like this is what Margot Robbie does when she's sad. This is what Margot Robbie looks like or sounds like when she's like, you know, charming or charismatic or, you know, I was like, I've seen it before, but it was still good, I think. And I still bought it. And so,
I think like, especially it's interesting comparing this role to like Barbie, because Barbie is like, I don't know, it's her playing very much a caricature, whereas like this feels like a real person. Like Sarah feels like someone you absolutely could meet just like in your day-to-day life, whereas like you're not going to run into Barbie, obviously, as much as the movie wanted you to think that you could. But yeah, that she's got range too, for sure, especially like just like general mood and disposition. Like I think I saw an interview that I'd be interested to going back and I'd be interested in going back and watching, where like the title or the description or something was just like Margot Robbie talks about why playing Sarah was such a different role for her, and that's kind of just what I felt like, because I was just like, oh, this is like different. Like she's not which she's very often like in movies to be eye candy, right? Like she's not eye candy. She's not like this romanticized woman in any way. Like even in like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like very romanticized character. Like she's just kind of like even the scene that best illustrates this actually is when they go to the elementary school and David's like, he asks someone, he's like, how old am I? And they're like 15. And she asks someone, she's like, how old am I? And they're like, I don't know, 40. And she's like, what do you mean 40? And she like cusses him out to herself. And it was just like, oh, like Margot Robbie is like a past her prime, like, person who's just kind of seen as normal and unremarkable, like physically, like that's really interesting. And it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't like Margot Robbie is still Margot Robbie. Like it's not like she made herself uglier for this movie, but just like playing herself as like someone who's seen in society as normal. It's like really, really interesting, because she's usually in whatever movie she's in like some remarkable figure.
Yeah. Okay. Thoughts on stage stuff. And yeah, what you start.
So the stage stuff made me think of, have you seen Asteroid City?
Oh, I've not, no.
Okay, so that's kind of why I mentioned Wes Anderson's name earlier. Like, this is kind of like if Wes Anderson made a rom-com, because I was just thinking about Asteroid City when they brought the stage stuff in, because I don't know if you're familiar with Asteroid City, but it's like it's really hard to explain. It's like the main world of the movie is like a world of a play that takes place within the movie. So there's like several levels of reality, right? There's like the narrator, who is like really the only one who's in the real world. And then on stage, there's a play about a playwright who's writing a play that is about Asteroid City. And then that's like where the majority of the movie takes place, in Asteroid City. So like several levels deep in this like reality thing. And the actors in the movie are playing characters who like live and operate in Asteroid City, but they're also playing actors who are in the play that's in the play. So it's like, it's super confusing and super meta and really hard to understand. And I definitely had to like look up what the whole movie meant after it was over. I laughed a lot. It was hilarious. And there's like definitely, again, great moments where like they say something and you're like, oh, but you're like also a little confused. And like the movie ends with like all these characters like stopping and all of a sudden like repeating the phrase over and over, like you can't wake up if you don't fall asleep, you can't wake up if you don't fall asleep, and then the movie just ends and the credits roll and you're just like, what? Like kind of trippy and scary almost, like what just happened? But then like after reading it and kind of like reading about it a little bit and rehashing the experience in my mind, like a lot of people's interpretation was like the reason why it was so meta and there were so many like layers of reality is like the movie was about using art to process grief, which I think this movie was kind of about a little bit too. Like the reason why there was like all these, kind of baked in moments about there being, an a play and then an actor writing a play and then, like all of this, like everybody like engaging in plays into like descending levels of realities because they were all processing something that like led to the play. And then there was like, a bunch of moments that were like pulled from the different parts of the movie to like prove that point. And like this kind of, I think this was in there for similar reasons because there was the one line you talked about, like you have to act to be able to like, I don't remember exactly what the line.
Yeah, sometimes you have to perform to find the truth or something.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. You have to put on a performance to find the truth or whatever. So it was talking about like art revealing more truth than, like even just trying to tell the truth itself, which I think is a really interesting concept for sure. But I just don't think this movie needed it. And I also like, because, okay, there's like the scene before any of the stage stuff starts, which there's not a ton of it. They just like, they're in the car and then they stop and then they're on a stage. And then there's like a brief cutback to it where they're like supposed to be sleeping in a hotel where they're like sleeping on a stage. And then, there's like the mid-credit scene where they're like dancing together and they're on a stage. And so it just kind of led to this like question in the back of my head the whole time where I was like, because I'd seen Asteroid City, I think, and like had to like go through that kind of, trippy process of like figuring out what was real and what wasn't and like what was in what world. There's a really great moment in Asteroid City, by the way, where Bryan Cranston, who's the narrator, just like shows up in Asteroid City and he's like, wait, I'm not supposed to be here. And then he like pops out and you're like, like Wes Anderson knows that we're all confused and he's making fun of us. But I don't know. Anyways, that was kind of a side tangent. But I just think...
Wait, was Asteroid City the movie where they had the screening where, like, one of the screenings, like, Bryan Cranston actually came into the theater? Was that movie? Okay.
Sorry, yeah, which that would have tripped me out even more, probably, trying to figure out all of the layers of reality. Anyway. So, like, there was this, like, question in the back of my mind, probably because of Asteroid City, that was like, are they doing any of this at all? Like, not even the door stuff, which was like obviously like kind of like it wasn't taking place in the physical world. It was kind of like an alternate, like almost like, I don't know, just like not quite heaven, but just like a like metaphysical manifestation of their trauma or whatever.
Sure.
But like, is anything that's happening in this at all happening? Like, especially because, the car, even reality in it is like a little weird. Like the car rental agency is like super odd and not something that you would find in real life. And there's like, just like, and then they like go on the hill and they're looking down at the planet Earth. Like there's just like all of these moments that are like, so they're just like, none of this is happening and the whole movie is just them pretending. And they never really like revealed, and that was probably deliberate. I would think that like the director wanted you to not know and everyone to have their own interpretation of it, probably. But I just don't think it was fleshed out enough to be like a real thing. Like I don't know, I would have liked to have seen, because it was really just like in the middle, in that like one part after they like stop, it was like heavy in that part. And then like I said, like one flashback at one part where they're sleeping, and then at the end in like a mid-credits scene, and like all the rest of the movie just kind of like takes place in in Europe or wherever they are. So I don't know, like I said, I think it was an interesting idea, like, but I think the theme was just so strong on its own of like going back to your past and like even just like thinking about and like rehearsing what you would say to people you can't talk to anymore so that you can process your trauma and stuff like that. Like, I think that I would have gotten that out of the movie without the whole, like, maybe this is just a play and they're just acting. Maybe they're just actors who are like, maybe their trauma isn't even, anything literal that you've seen. Maybe it's like even deeper and they're just, I don't know. I don't think it needed that extra meta level of is this reality, is this not? But
Yeah. I think like something that I was questioning, because like early on, like, it's raining and his car has whatever, and he has to go get a car, right? And obviously, as we're going into this car agency, like, this is weird. Like, from the beginning, it's like, oh, like, you have to time opening the door. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is, like, saying weird crap and stuff, and, like, but in some ways, like, David wasn't reacting to it as it's, like, super weird. Like, if I was there, I'd be like, maybe I'd go find another, like, or something like that. So I was trying to figure out, like, is the world that we're living in, is it just a fantastical world? Or is this, like, clearly weird to him? But also at the end, when he comes back, he's like, he kind of questions them, but he's also just like, oh, like, are you guys like a soulmate creating agency or something? And so in some ways, I was trying to find out what like the baseline of the world was to figure out like what I believe is fantastical or what is supposed to be perceived as fantastical. Because like if the baseline of your world is like crazy, kooky, whatever, then like it makes the fantastical things like less fantastical, I guess. Like it's Syndrome. When everyone's super, no one will be, whatever. And so that confused me in the beginning because I was like, I don't feel like they played it any which way. I thought that like the stage thing was just weird because like we were on an actual stage in the previous like door where it's like, oh, he's actually performing in front of people who are there but aren't there because this is the past and it's not real. But like, and then we're gonna, go on a stage, and so like, I think that's where it like really felt like a dream to me. Where like in dreams, like the rules of dreams don't make sense, and it's just kind of like whatever it is happens, and at least in my dreams, like, but like in my mind, when I'm in the dream, it makes complete sense. But then like something I do is I write down my dreams after I wake up. And when I'm writing them, I'm like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
This is stupid. But also like when I was in the dream, it like was so, it was visceral. It was there. I was enthralled. I was like bought in. Right. And I think for them, the characters, like it almost didn't matter if it was crazy or weird or like whatever, or like kind of sus. Cause like something inside both of them like did kind of want to go on that big, bold, beautiful journey or whatever, because it was like alluring to them, speaking to the insides of them. And I think generally, similarly to you, the thematics and like the little nuggets and things were so interesting to me that I was like, I'm cool with like, like it don't matter too much. But yeah, I don't know. So
I just like I said, I think that they could have just played into like, oh, this is a fantastical world, it's fantasy, and then I would have bought it, and then all the themes would have come across great, and like they could have also made it like gone more into depth of like, are they dreaming, is this real, are they just like actors on a stage, kind of in like a 2-person show, just like making it all up as they go along, but it's like having effects on their real world psyche. Like if they could have leaned either way, I just wish that they would have leaned more strongly either way. I think that's my one criticism, though. I like I said, I don't think I think the best part of this movie is its ideas, and I think that I appreciate the director taking some risks and just kind of like throwing all of his ideas out there, even if they weren't fully formed. And so it feels like the stage thing wasn't a fully formed idea, but it definitely doesn't kill the movie. Like it's not like it was so frustrating that it took me out of the movie entirely. It was just kind of like every time, because at the point in the movie where they stop and it goes to the stage part, I'm still like trying to figure out the rules of the world and all that stuff. Sure. Anyway, so it was just kind of like, oh, this is new and interesting, and then like they kind of never, and the other times that they cut back to it, it was just kind of like a brief annoyance. Like it wasn't like an, oh, like I'm really just like getting to the end of this, it wasn't like Tenet, where you get to the end of the movie and you're like, I'm really still trying to figure out what happened in this movie. or even Asteroid City is another actually great example of that, where I got to the end and I was just like, dude, like I enjoyed myself, but genuinely what just happened? Like I kind of understood, and there was still such a clear emotional arc, and the themes, like I said, the themes and the ideas that he was trying to get across were so clear that like some of the messiness wasn't as big of a deal.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, okay, last thought on the stage thing. Because I was thinking a lot about sometimes you have to perform to find the truth quite a bit. Because I think my knee-jerk reaction was like, basically, long story short, when I was in freshman year, in college, I created this alternate persona called Obadiah because I didn't like who I was, so I wanted to kind of create this persona that people would like. And it took creating another persona to realize some insecurities inside of me, right? And so, like, for me, I was like, oh, like, that makes a lot of sense. That, like, lines up. I feel like I understand that pretty well. But, like, in the movie, I was like, well, they don't necessarily put on a persona, per se. And, like, they're honestly pretty candid and honest with each other throughout the movie about who they are. And so I was kind of thinking about that. And with you talking about the stage stuff, and how it seems like maybe it's just two people like kind of going through their trauma and grief in their past. I was thinking about like when you perform for other people, right? And like maybe like the idea of like why did Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie want to go on this big, bold, beautiful journey? Like part of it was like their like loneliness, but I think part of what like drove them to continue on the journey was like how they were learning about each other, and like someone else was there to like walk them through and help them understand and willing to listen to their grief, trauma things. And I just found that interesting because like I think I find myself a lot of times like suppressing or avoiding doing things in the same way that Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell, they like avoid a lot of things. Like there's some times where I have like a thought or a feeling and like I kind of know what it is. And I'm a internal processor. I like to write to like kind of formalize thoughts for myself, but I'll decide not to write it down because if I write it down, then I'm gonna have to confront it and then it's gonna be real in my mind and I can't like ignore it, right? And for a long time, I would tell people like, oh, I'm an internal processor. I don't want to talk about it right now. Let me think about it first and then I can talk to you about it. And then I just won't write it down. I won't think about it. And so avoidance, right? But then I've found like over time and talking to some trusted friends and mentors, like them talking to me and asking me questions and me slowly trusting them, like they've like teased that out of me. And like this obviously this is away from the sometimes you have to perform to find the truth thing, but the idea of like other people helping me bring out the unspoken things that I want to avoid simply because there are other people that I trust, I guess, or have learned to trust. And I think that kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier of like two people who are broken and bad, like learning to allow themselves to be loved by another person, even if though they're not like bettered in like some significant way. And so I found that interesting. And I found that especially just in a time currently when interesting life changes with a breakup and stuff like that, like I think it is easy to avoid almost. And so I think that was like good push from the movie, like maybe indirectly to like go to community and to people that I trust to like help me heal and process and figure things out. So I was like, oh, that was cool. And also just like a dang, like a hit. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's uncomfortable, you know? That was kind of like the thought, I guess.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I just thinking about, you know, the breakups, the rejection that I've dealt with, I feel like my knee-jerk reaction a lot of times is to try and measure how I'm rebounding based on how little I think about it. Like, it's like almost an achievement for me if like I go through a day like a couple weeks later where I'm like, hey, like my brain was kind of functioning as normal, and as normal is like I thought about this like once or twice and it didn't really affect me super emotionally, and I like went about my day and had fun and had, you know, like normal emotions like pre-breakup. That's like, you know, and that's like a sign of success, I guess, is like, oh, I've like gotten rid of it, you know? Like I must be processing it because it's gone. Like, you know, somehow it being gone results in me processing it, and like a kind of reality that I've had to face a lot in kind of my older teenage and young adult life is like mental health and trauma and all that isn't like never linear. Like you get put back in like mental, like emotional situations that you kind of thought that you were past a lot, and the temptation is always like, oh, I've regressed, like I've backslidden, like, you know, all this progress I made is gone. And like it's just like, no, like you're just, the path is winding, like you're not, and like you can like take a step back, but you know that doesn't mean you took like, I don't know, like the other the days of progress you made still happened, and like you know, one bad day or a couple bad hours doesn't erase like what has gone on. But also just like it is kind of like you said, like learning to let yourself deal with that more directly and have more emotional, like just like learning to let yourself feel bad. I don't know, it's because I think also another thing that I deal with a lot in rejection and breakups is like this like almost competitive mentality. It's like if everyone who knows the both of us feels like I've like gone in a better direction in my life post breakup than the other person, then I've like won something, you know, like I've like really shown them that like it's their loss and like not mine really, you know, like there's just some like very competitive like temptation in me in those scenarios. So, and also this is actually, since we're talking about avoidance, the first time that I ever dealt with any sort of breakup or rejection, like I didn't really, you know, it was like a person that I saw pretty regularly in school every day, and I just didn't really know how to handle that and move forward because I'd never really seen it modeled well or anything like that. So I was just like, never talked to that person again. Like to this day, I've still not had a face-to-face conversation with that person besides like maybe one or two passing comments, like, and this happened like 7 or 8 years ago. So like, and that it's probably not gonna happen for the rest of my life actually, because like we don't live in the same areas anymore. Our lives are not intersecting in any way. And so that's just like a lost opportunity most likely. But, and again, like, and that was just kind of how I processed it. And there was like some kind of like victory in that almost too. Like I was just like, oh, like I'm ignoring you. You can like, you know, I'm not losing my dignity in the sense that I'm like, you know, kind of like crawling back to you and like begging to take you back. And like also in this way, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't really make a ton of sense now that I talk about it out loud, but it's still like, it's what made the most sense to me at the time, because I was just like, I don't have to deal with them. And then like, it's like the most demonstrative thing that I can do without actually doing anything. Like people are going to notice that I like am pretending this person doesn't exist, and this person's going to notice that I'm pretending that they don't exist, but like there's no real consequences because I'm not going to, like, if I ever get confronted for it, I have plausible deniability. I can just be like, we just aren't dating anymore. Like, what do you mean? Like, I just, you know, I just don't talk to that person. Like, it's why would I have a reason to? We're not dating anymore. Or we're not, you know, whatever the middle school version of dating was at the time, which was not officially dating, obviously. But, and then so again, when those situations came up, when I got rejected, it was like, avoidance of, like, this happened a couple more times where I was just like, this is my strategy. Like, I just pretend they don't exist, basically. And then, really interesting, the last time I experienced a breakup, I was like, I don't want to do this again because I know that this is bad. And, like, so I had, like, kind of the opposite reaction where I was like, let's, like, even though this person, because I was in a long-distance relationship, like, this person and I are not in the same physical space, but let's, like, maintain some sort of cordial friendship and like not be mad at each other, and like let me move past this, like, you know, very petty thing that I was doing, basically. And then like having to deal with the other person not being interested in that and like cutting me completely off and not giving me that opportunity. So like it's just like, again, yet another feather in the cap of a relationship ending and then me never talking to that person again. This time not because of my own choice, and I was just like, oh, how do I reconcile this? Like I had it so made up in my mind that I was going to progress and have like a different approach this time, and like be friends with this person, and just like no, like, and then they were the tables were kind of turned on me almost. So yeah, and I can relate to the avoidance in a very direct way, and so I don't know. It's part of like a non-confrontation. I just am non-confrontational in general. I don't like fighting with people, but also it's kind of, like I said, part of this like I've won if I don't give it any mental energy, which is not true. Like giving these things mental energy and like through performing, like they're talking about performing in this movie. Like another example that I can think about is like writing, because like I'm a writer, so if I wanted to like perform in an artistic way my emotions, I would probably write a story, like some sort of fiction. Like to process my most recent breakup, I wrote a screenplay, and it was just kind of that it kind of happened randomly. Like I was taking a screenwriting class and I didn't really know what to write about, and the professor was like, the like best advice I can give for people who don't know what to write about is like take like a traumatic event or thing you experienced and like try to like write about it, but just like through different characters and that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I tried to do, and it ended up being like a pretty therapeutic experience in a lot of ways, because, and I think the most valuable thing was not actually like what you would expect, like, oh, like I can like paint the like character who was the equivalent of the other person in the past relationship as like a horrible person, like me as just the victim, or the character that to me is the victim, right? It was actually like I got to write the character that I wanted to relate to as a flawed character, and like write him making some of the mistakes that I like through reflection could now see myself having made in the relationship. And so that like helped me kind of forgive myself a little bit, because like I still had affection for this character that was basically me, right? Even though they were flawed. And then I also like was able to just kind of like more clearly see the mistakes so I could decide what I didn't want to do next time, I guess. So in multiple ways that was helpful. So yeah, all that to say, that very long-winded answer to say, very relatable theme for sure.
Dude, yeah. I've also written a screenplay to, get over, real. Dude, these things happen. Maybe, I don't know whoever wrote this movie, but, like, maybe they were really going through it. I'd assume, like, I feel like you can't just, like, pull this stuff out of nowhere, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah. I don't know, any other last kind of final thoughts on A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey? Would you recommend this to your average friend, person, family member?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think that this is one of those movies that, like, there are definitely friends that I could think of that I would expect to not enjoy it, and so I maybe wouldn't recommend it to them. And not because, like, they're not deep, introspective people, but just because, like, I don't know if the tone and, like, would work for them, and I also don't know if they'd be able to see past some of the, like, I don't know, the flaws in the movie. But there's also definitely friends that I can think of that I would like very strongly recommend this to, because I think that they would be really fascinated by it. So it's maybe not like an unequivocal, like, yes, every single person that I come across, I'm going to be hyping this up as like, this is the best movie and you all need to watch it. But like, there are definitely people in my life that I will just, like, especially if it comes up, or like if I'm thinking about it in that moment, I'll be like, hey, you should watch this.
Yeah. I agree. I think maybe I'm a little more just interested in seeing how people react. Like, I think I know my dad would not really enjoy this. He'd be like, bro, man, it's too confusing, too artsy fartsy or whatever. He'd probably say something like that. But like, I would love for him to watch it just to see what he took away different compared to me, because he's been a father and he has also dated people in his life and as I don't know, whatever, and that would just be interesting to see. And then also like my mom as a mother probably would cry a lot more at other specific things with Sarah than I do, and that would just be interesting, I guess. I would, because in the things that I heard you talk about, there are some of your reflections I was like, I never even thought once about. And then even with like the materialist thing, like I think the way that I took and perceived the Pedro Pascal like short guy surgery thing was just obviously wildly different than you, and like I think that's one of the most interesting things about movies is like how different they like strike chords with different people, which is why I enjoy talking about them. But like, yeah, I don't know, I think I generally would like, maybe not for like kids. I have like younger cousins where I'm like, maybe you can watch that in 10 years or whatever. But I think it's pretty cool, pretty good, and like it's an interesting reflective piece. So
yeah, for sure. Was that like your final question? You said you had a final question a couple minutes ago, and then we went into some of the stage stuff, but...
Oh, that was my final question, yeah, kind of thing. But anything else that you got? Or?
I'm trying to think. I feel like there was something I thought about a couple minutes ago, so I can try to bring it back to the kind of front of my brain. I don't know. I don't know. It was, a movie. We watched it. It was real. We thought about it a lot.
It was big. It was a journey.
It was definitely bold to its success and also sometimes its confusion.
Yeah. It was a journey. Go watch it, maybe. Okay, last thing. I really enjoyed the title drop. I thought that was like fun. He just kind of like cusses it out, and then like I was like, that's cool, I guess. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you for joining us on a big, bold, beautiful podcast journey, I guess. But yeah, Ethan, thank you for coming on to the podcast. Yeah, and until next time, until we I don't know what I'm gonna review next. What's I want to watch The Smashing Machine.
Me too. Yeah.
A24
A24 is on fire right now.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if I'll do a podcast on that. I think I'll definitely do a podcast on Wicked for good.
Yeah. I'll be watching that too. I think my like movies for the rest of the year that I have on my radar is definitely Wicked 2, Zootopia 2, which I'm sure you'll watch. 2, bro. And then Wake Up Dead Man for sure.
Yes. Oh, okay. I need you on a pod for that, bro.
Oh, awesome. I'll talk your ear off about it, I'm sure. And that, because already, like, religious miracle themes, like, and it being, like, seemingly a little spookier than the first two, we're already cooking. Yeah. So, and then, I think it also comes out in November, the other rom-com, the A24
Eternity.
rom-com.
Is it Elizabeth Olsen?
Yeah, she's dead. Yep.
Yes, I'm excited for that movie.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
It feels like another, like, because there's obviously elements of materialist because she has to choose, kind of.
Yeah.
But like, plus maybe The Good Place, which that's a show I really liked.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, this is gonna be good.
Because I don't know, like they're in the afterlife for sure, but it's not like in. I think it's really interesting. I'm intrigued by the possibility that they arrive in the afterlife, and the afterlife doesn't know what the best future is for them already. Like it seems if they're in like kind of sort of an afterlife paradise of sorts that like. She would arrive, and then the whoever's running the afterlife would just be like, spend the rest of your life with this person. He'll make you the happiest. And she'll just be like, okay, it's like, it's a weird. I think just knowing the fact that she has to choose it all makes the world of the afterlife really intriguing. So I'm really interested to see how they do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about those. Eternity is a big one. Avatar 3. I really like The Way of Water.
I'm not gonna lie, I have not I've never made it through either Avatar movie.
Oh my goodness! Wait, what?
I do know that that's no. I will probably leading up because I think this one to me looks the most interesting.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, it's not. It's definitely one of my biggest L's is like not, but both times that I tried to watch the first one the night before I had tickets to go see the second one, fell asleep, and then went to go see the second one really late at night, like around Christmas time. So I was already wiped out anyway, and it was like a midnight showing. In the theaters? Yeah, it was like a midnight showing, and I like got about an hour in, and then I was cooked. And it wasn't even because it was boring. I was just tired. So,
dang.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad.
Dude, okay, Avatar: The Way of Water. I watched that movie maybe 3 times in theaters. It was my first and only 3D movie I've watched in theaters. I don't think the story is super crazy or anything. It's not super, but like, I just think water worlds are super cool, and it was just eye candy for 3 hours. So that I wasn't the hugest fan of the first one, but I'm going because like I think this is going to be a spectacle, and also like I don't know if you made it to the last hour of The Way of Water, but the last...
Here's the thing, is like I kind of got the gist of the plot because I saw the first hour and then fell asleep for like the second hour, and then like definitely the last 30 minutes was like way more conscious than I was for like the middle of the movie, and so like got where it ended basically, and kind of felt like I was like, did I really miss much? And then I like talked to my cousins about it, and they were like, you missed a lot of whales swimming around. And I was like, okay, like, sure.
literally. But like, I think James Cameron is great at making like action set pieces that are just like thrilling and like, yo, this is cool. Like, blue people are just like fighting each other and shooting arrows and whatever. And like, now it's going to be fire people shooting fire arrows at, you know, I just think it's going to be like...
The villain looks really good. I think that is super intriguing. I will say, my biggest, like, praise that I have for the very little that I've seen of Avatar, other than, like, the first 15 minutes just being blown up, because I also saw it in 3D. Saw some of it, evidently. But I think my, besides that being super sick, was, like, I saw the final scene. I was like, wow, this really hit emotionally, even though I have like almost no context for it because I haven't seen the full first movie and missed half of this movie. Like, it's incredible how emotional this was for me still, even though it like, it's definitely hitting a lot harder for someone who's seen the first movie multiple times and watched this movie from start to finish. So like I said, I'm sure I will like it. I need to invest. And, this next one coming out and looking great is definitely what'll help me do it. But
yeah. Oh, also, this is not a movie, but Percy Jackson season 2 comes out in December. I'm a hater of the first season.
I haven't seen it, unfortunately.
Ooh, interesting. But yeah, that's...
Isn't also, it's, they're finally finishing Stranger Things.
Oh, really? Does that come out this December?
So, I think it's like November, December.
November, December's gonna be popping, bro. That's like, yeah, Wicked, Zootopia.
I kind of felt like we'd seen all the great movies for the year after. Well, like Fantastic Four was the last big one, but I kind of saw Bad Guys too, because like over the summer it was like banger after banger after banger every week. Like I was at the movies every Tuesday basically for Discount Tuesday, and then I was just kind of like, well, oh yeah, like we've seen them all, because like these last couple of months have been kind of slow, but November is like, because I love seeing movies around Thanksgiving, so finding out that there are 3 bangers coming out, I was just like, oh, we're cooking.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I feel like this year has been a good year for me.
Oh, absolutely. So
yeah. So yeah, you'll catch more of us on a podcast at some point this year. But dude, thank you for coming on as always.
Thank you, sir, for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, and until next time, bye.